Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about the 10 best horror movies of 2025 so far. And with that, let's get to the list.
It's just a spark.
Companion is a 2025 psychological thriller written and directed by Drew Hancock and produced by Zach Cregger. It stars Sophie Thatcher, Jack Quaid, and Lucas Gage. A billionaire's death sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to his lakeside estate. Alright, so the cat is pretty much out of the bag at this point. If you're not aware of the twist in this, that's fine. I'm not going to spoil it here, but I know that most people know that this is definitely as much of a sci-fi movie as it is a thriller / horror movie. I've seen a lot of arguments that this is not a horror movie, and if you've watched my channel for any length of time, horror thriller is blended a bit because movies like this that are technically not horror movies, they still live close enough to me in that umbrella of horror-ish thriller movies. And just an FYI, there'll be a few movies on this that might not be technically considered horror movies, but I think they're close enough, and at least in my opinion, they have enough horrific elements to them that it takes them from being just a thriller into at least the umbrella of the horror world. And this one I feel fits really squarely into that because there's a lot of chase scenes, there's gore, there's stuff that feels almost like a slasher, there's some moments where it gets a bit brutal, but this is a lot of fun. It's exciting, the cast is phenomenal in it, they're funny, but it's not overtly funny, it's not really a comedy either. There's just plenty of situational humor moments in it that you'll definitely find yourself laughing. But I just can't get enough of the back and forth between Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid in this. They're phenomenal in this because especially when things turn sour and it starts to get twisted, they're back and forth, the way they go at each other, it's very fun to watch. But this was the first big surprise this year because I was looking forward to this, but I did not expect it to be as good as it ended up being. It's well written and directed, it's shot fantastically, just in every way. I think this is a fantastic movie that I had to put on this list.
Maybe Death's not actually coming for our family, because that would be crazy.
Good luck.
Final Destination Bloodlines is a 2025 supernatural horror movie. It's the 6th installment in the Final Destination franchise and is directed by Zach Lebowski and Adam Stein. It stars Breck Basinger, Theo Briines, and Richard Harmon. Plagued by a reoccurring violent nightmare, a college student returns home to find the one person who can break the cycle and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them.
Grandma, what's happening to us?
Years ago, I had a premonition that started it all. I saw what death was about to do.
I was really looking forward to this one, but I didn't honestly expect it to be as good as it is, because I think anyway, it's right up there with the original as the best movie of this franchise. You could definitely say that the first one did it first, and so therefore it's a better movie, and any of that. I'm not debating that here. I'm just saying that for me, it's right up there with that first movie because this is so much fun. It's well written. I love the cast, but it doesn't take itself serious at all. And I think that's one of the things that kind of separates it for me is because it's not silly. It's not being goofy, but it also is well aware that it is a fun movie and that it isn't going to take itself so overly serious and have some deep message and thing that it's trying to say, because that's not what you go to see a Final Destination movie to see. Because I mean, the main reason you go see a Final Destination movie is for the gore, for the kills. You want to see imaginative, creative types of kills, and this delivers. This brings all that and more. There were so many moments in it that caught me by surprise, and then moments that I saw coming, but I didn't even care because I couldn't wait to see what they brought. Beyond all that, Tony Todd getting to say his goodbye in this movie was so special to me. He was such a brilliant artist and brought so much to the horror community, to the world of film in general, but definitely to us horror fans. But what he was able to do in this movie, I think, will forever be a special moment. This is a phenomenal, fantastic, exciting, and fun thrill ride from the very beginning to the final shot, and definitely deserves your time.
Hello, Eddie. You're in my car.
Locked is a 2025 psychological horror thriller. Directed by David Yarovesky, it's a remake of the 2019 Argentinian film 4x4 and stars Bill Skarsgård and Anthony Hopkins. A thief breaking into a luxury SUV realizes that he has slipped into a sophisticated game of psychological horror.
My name is William. I'm the owner of this car.
What do you want?
Thou shalt not steal. That's not complicated, is it?
This movie is really slipped through the cracks. I haven't heard anybody talking about it, and I don't really understand why that is. I'm hoping that eventually it'll drop on something like Netflix or whatnot, and it'll start to get a buzz, because this is so much fun. Just the performances alone make this worth seeing. But it's well written, the pacing's great, the way it's shot. It's such a simple concept of these two characters, one that's inside of this car, and then the other one that's talking to him through a speaker and basically torturing him, using the car as this trap that he has control over. It's brilliant. And you get these flashes of Anthony Hopkins and what a great villain he can be. And there's a tiny bit of Hannibal Lecter in this performance. And then Bill Skarsgård, who, Pennywise and a whole bunch of other amazing characters. Like, just the performances, like I said, alone make this worth seeing. The two of them just going at it is so much fun to see. And I know it's a remake, and I've heard a number of people say that the Argentinian film is just as good or better. I have yet to see it, so I can't speak if that's the case or not. All I can speak on is this movie, and this is such a thrill ride. It's intense and nail-biting. It keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout this entire movie. And because it's such a simple concept, you wouldn't expect there to be as much packed into it as there is. You are never bored in this movie, I promise you. There's so many little twists and turns and things that they do in this that keep your attention, so you never feel bored at all. But if you're in the mood for a heart-pounding thrill ride, Locked is a fantastic pick.
This is crazy. Mommy! Daddy! Stop! End of test.
The Assessment is a 2024 sci-fi thriller, directed by Fleur Fortuné in her feature-length debut. It stars Elizabeth Olsen, Alicia Vikander, and Himesh Patel. In the near future, where parenthood is strictly controlled, a couple's 7-day assessment for the right to have a child unravels into a psychological nightmare.
Oh, Virginia.
Oh my God. I need to assess all aspects of your relationship.
God, this movie is so good, but it's another one kind of like Companion that is more of a thriller than it is a clean, straight up horror movie. But there are definitely horror undertones here and a lot of uncomfortable, weird, and just downright off-putting moments to this movie. But the genres are also blurred. It's so difficult to ever make a clean, cut and dry horror movie list anymore. Because there's no way I'm gonna leave this movie off, because it blends the genres together, and it's hard to even classify exactly what this is. But I know that most fans of horror, especially if you're into slow burn, psychological kind of horror, you're gonna love this movie. For one, the performances here once again. I mean, Alicia Vikander was incredible in Ex Machina, and plays a very, very different role in this, but she is just as good in this. I mean, the things she has to do and go through in this are truly impressive. But then you have the performance from Elizabeth Olsen in this, who just completely brings it in this. Such an emotional, powerful, moving performance in this. And it's really hard to put into words exactly what this movie is or what it's doing, because it feels very fresh, very original. There's so many things to this, so many layers to it. And even though most of it just takes place in just basically one location, The house that it's set in is very original, very creative, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of sci-fi elements, but things that feel very close to technology that we have now. So it doesn't feel so out there in the future that you can't relate to it, and at least on some level feel like it's a place you could see lived in. But this is a bizarre one. It's a weird one. Very strange and twisted, but I think it's a truly special movie that is very much flying under the radar, and there is no way in hell I was gonna make one of these lists without giving some love to this one.
We're sharks.
I'm nothing like you.
Dangerous Animals is a 2025 survival horror movie. Directed by Sean Byrne, it stars Jay Courtney, Hassie Harrison, and Josh Houston. When a savvy and free-spirited surfer is abducted by a shark-obsessed serial killer, she must figure out how to escape before he carries out his ritualistic feeding to the sharks below.
What is this? Where are we?
We're on his boat.
Whose boat?
I don't think you want to know.
This movie was so badass. It's very reminiscent, to me anyway, of the movie Wolf Creek. It just has that kind of feel about it. It's a different story, different premise, and things like that, but the overall tone kind of feels similar to that. But I would say that this movie is a little less mean. It's a little more fun and a little less brutal and bleak. But don't get that twisted. This movie still goes for it. It is savage as fuck. I mean, there are some scenes in this that definitely had me squirming, uncomfortable, and different characters and people that I wanted to survive, their lives were in peril, and in some cases, they didn't walk out of this movie. But there's a lot of surprises in it. There's a lot of little things that it does that overall, it isn't like the most original movie I've ever seen. I mean, it's basically a serial killer being what a serial killer is, right? But it's the little nuances to that. It's the way he carries out his ritual stuff. It's the way he involves sharks. It's how he picks his victims. It's all those little things. And then some other little things that I won't mention that really give this movie a unique flavor and style. On top of that, I loved the soundtrack here. It's fun because a lot of movies now, they have scores. And I really enjoy that, right? They can be amazing. But it is kind of a lost art form of having a soundtrack where there's songs you recognize and that you're humming along or make you feel these different nostalgic things or whatever, but they give a flavor to a movie. And this really brought that back for me because there's a lot of songs in this that I've grown up with, older songs as well as stuff that's a little more contemporary, but still things that I knew and made this movie even more fun. But the performance from Ja Courtney is what really makes this movie a must-see. He is so unique and fun and full of energy and charisma and style. He just is intimidating and scary, but also you can't take your eyes off of him. I mean, it's one of those like Hannibal Lecter things where some of the best villains ever are, like the Joker, are also the character that's fun to watch. There's something about them that you like, even though you know they're a horrible human and want to see him die or whatever. You're still enjoying their performance, and he brings that here. But I mean, this is a small movie, so don't go into this with the craziest of expectations. I'm not saying this is a Silence of the Lambs or anything like that. I mean, this is a very small Shudder release movie. It's an IFC Shudder release, and so it's going to be on Shudder hopefully within the next month or so. But I think this is such a fun summertime release, and I think that a lot of people are going to be buzzing about this movie once it hits Shudder later on in the summer. But at least for me personally, as far as performances, writing, the style, all those things that I take into consideration, this is without a doubt one of my absolute favorites this year.
Hello, Jinny Pin.
Yeah. Good night, Jinny Pin.
The Rule of Jinny Pin is a 2024 New Zealand psychological horror movie, co-written and directed by James Ashcroft. It stars Jeffrey Rush, John Lithgow, and George Hanar. Confined to a secluded rest home and trapped within his stroke-ridden body, a former judge must stop an elderly psychopath who uses a puppet to abuse the home's residents.
What's going to happen is you'll get worse and worse till you can't speak. or even lift a finger. That's if you can still think straight enough to know what kind of hell you're in.
So I've been buzzing about this movie since it was released early this year. It is so well done. The writing, the way it's shot, the things and themes and things that it deals with, it's moving. It is sad and also exciting. It's intense, and there's so many layers to this. Like, you go through an absolute emotional roller coaster ride through this movie. But oh my God, the performances here from John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush, they're so much fun to watch. I mean, there's scenes where they're funny, but also disturbing. I mean, John Lithgow especially, he is such a good villain. And he is so creepy and disturbing in this movie. But the themes that this touches on and how it shows a lot of what growing old is like. And, you know, the sad tragedy of it and how we're all gonna be old one day and helpless in ways, and how our elderly can be taken advantage of. And it's something that over the last couple years, I've had a lot of health issues, and I just really found myself connecting to this movie, and it really, really resonated for me. But I just think this movie is fantastic. It is the definition of what I love when it comes to indie, small horror movies. So if you have yet to see The Rule of Jinny Pin, do yourself a favor and check it out.
I've lost my mind.
The Ugly Stepsister is a 2025 Norwegian body horror movie. Co-written and directed by Emily Blichfeldt in her directorial debut. It stars Leah Myron, Thea Sophie Locke, and Anne Deltorp. The story follows Elvira as she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme. So she resorts to extreme measures amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. This one came out of nowhere. I did not know anything about this. It was one of those where I had all of a sudden noticed that there was a new horror movie in theaters and was like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's put out by Shudder IFC. Cool. I see everything that they put out. And if it's in theaters, I'm going to go see it. But it was one of those very limited releases. I had to drive, I think, about an hour to see this. But I'm so glad I did. This movie is bonkers. It is so intense, so weird, so twisted. And if you don't know anything about this and haven't had anything spoiled about this movie, skip ahead a few minutes or go watch it right now. But the idea of this movie is to see the Cinderella story, but from the Ugly Stepsister's point of view. And the way they handle that, the things they go to, the extremes, it's wild. It is so uncomfortable at times, just brutal, disturbing body horror, but it all feels grounded. It all feels like it's a universe that could really exist, because at a time in history, there have been a lot of these things that went on. And so I love that they were able to take this fairy tale and put it in a real setting and really tighten up the screws and make it a full-blown body horror movie. It's just a fun ride, but also really uncomfortable at times. It's just a fantastic idea that's extremely well executed. But this cast is phenomenal here. They all really bring it, but especially Leah Myron. I mean, the things that she puts her body through, the different situations that, you know, like very vulnerable types of moments in this movie, not flattering. I'm just, my hat's off. If I had a hat on, it would be off to this performance. It really is special. And I wish that more people noticed the performances that we get from these indie horror movies like this, because they never win awards. They never get any big recognition. And it's really a shame, because it's performances like this that keep the industry alive, especially when it comes to horror. So I think it's a great little movie that if you're a fan of body horror, it's one you definitely need to see.
This is a glorious day. A day of judgment.
My children!
There's
is no discharge in the war.
28 years later is a 2025 post-apocalyptic horror movie, directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. It's the third film in the 28 Days Later series and stars Aaron Taylor Johnson, Alfie Williams, and Ralph Fiennes. A group of survivors of the rage virus lives on a small island, and when one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors.
Look at what's in front of you.
So at the time of recording this, I saw this last night. I'm still buzzing from this movie, and it's one of those where I'm not exactly sure if this is where it really should be ranked, but until I'm able to sit with it longer, it's hard to say. I know that it won't go down much. I also don't think it would go up much, but it's really tough when you're talking about my top couple movies of this year so far, because each one I think is great, but in their own way. It's one of those things, until I really sit with a movie for a while, it's hard to really know where it sits, because all the movies this year that I have really loved, they're all unique and fantastic in their own ways. They're not like each other, so it's hard to really compare them to each other. But I can tell you this movie is definitely one of my tops of the year. There is no world I can imagine where my top 10 at the very end of this year that this movie isn't going to be on that. Because I've seen a ton of people saying, mediocre elements about this, saying they were disappointed as the main one. A lot of expectations going into this, and that's the problem with expectations. When you have expectations, what that means is you have envisioned in your head a movie to exist that you didn't make. And so if it isn't what you're anticipating it to be, which is almost impossible, you're going to come away probably being a bit disappointed. It's the trouble with sequels. It's why sequels are so hard to ever get to live up to the original. Because you either remake the original, and then a lot of the people that grew up with the movie or have seen it, whatever, they're going to be disappointed. Or you reboot it, and if you're lucky, you'll make something special, but it's kind of its own thing. Or you'll make a real sequel like this, but you got to do some unique, different things with it. You got to go and be creative, but also brave and bold and have some balls and just go in a direction and hope that people are on board with the art that you're making. And that's what this is, because this is not at all what you're expecting it to be. It's not going to be this fast, frenetic, zombie-driven kind of movie, like especially the sequel 28 Weeks Later. This is definitely not that kind of movie. But it's just its own thing. Just like the first movie was different and the second one was a lot different than the first, this is even more different. And you got to think about how many years have gone by. These people that are making this movie, everything about this feels different. But there are still things that I think if you love, especially if you love the work that Alex Garland does and you love the work that Danny Boyle does, I think that there's a lot here you're gonna love and appreciate. For me personally, I think this movie is brilliant. I love that it's different. I love that it's imaginative and creative. There's a lot of emotions here. It's more of a slow burn in a lot of ways and more of a big journey kind of movie than it is this real compacted kind of horror movie. So it's like it has elements of those first two movies, but it's doing something different with it. But holy shit, the visuals of this movie, they're just like burned into my head. And that's one of the things, like a little behind the scenes thing with me that I don't really talk about, is the way I talk about movies. I get these visuals in my head. And the more vivid the visuals are in my head of a movie, the higher up it ranks, so to speak, in my recommending a movie. Because like, if it sticks with me, if it's memorable, and I get these flashes, these images that are just burned into my mind, that's gonna go a lot further than a movie that I quickly forget. So that's kind of how I decide a lot of these things. And this is a movie that even just a day later, the whole movie is like visually imprinted on my mind. But each one of the performances here are great. But the real big standout for me was Alfie Williams. holy fuck, this kid is one hell of an actor. The things he has to do in this movie and the way this story goes and his involvement in it, like, it is truly something else. But also the other criticism, so to speak, I could see for this movie is it doesn't have like a cliffhanger per se, but this is definitely part one of what is expected to be a 3-movie series. Because the movie ends where it's not a cliffhanger, but it does have this episodic type of way about it where, you know, you feel like, okay, this is chapter 1. And there's some teaser elements of like, okay, I have an idea of what's to come. Like, I can't, you know, for me anyway, I can't wait to see the directions ultimately this goes and get to see more of this universe, because this does a lot more world building than the other 2 movies did. And there's a lot of different creatures and mutants and things like that in this than there was in the other movies. Like, just in things like that, there's a lot of surprises and exciting little weird things that happen throughout this that I can't wait to see what else they have up their sleeves. But I was also shocked at the emotional heart this movie has. I mean, there is one scene in particular that is one of the most beautiful but moving, sad, like almost brought me to tears. And for a horror movie to do that, that's rare. That doesn't happen very often because it's still a horror movie. I mean, there is some creepy ass scenes, scary scenes, intense scenes. I mean, it's got a wide variety of horror elements throughout this. But I guess to sum it up, I think this is a phenomenal movie. One I highly, highly recommend. But at the same time, don't go into this expecting it to be what you think it's going to be, because I'm telling you right now, it's not. It's different. It does a different thing with it, but it also is still really good. So at the time I'm recording this, it's Friday, so it literally just hit theaters late last night, basically today. So if you get a chance this weekend or over the next couple weeks to see this in theaters, I think it's a must, because the visuals of this movie, the things that it does on a big screen, are so much more impactful and amazing than they'll ever be at home. But at least in my opinion, this is without a doubt one of the best movies this year.
We can bring her back.
Bring Her Back is a 2025 Australian horror movie, co-written and directed by Danny and Michael Philippou. It stars Sally Hawkins, Misha Hayward, and Jonah Wren Phillips. A brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother.
Is this their new sister and brother, Oliver? Oliver lost his family just like you guys. Needed someone that could keep in special care.
This is one of those movies that just lingers. It's one that it's been weeks now since I saw it first in theaters, and yet it is just still a part of me. It gets under your skin and creeps you out and sticks with you because there's so many layers to this. It's dark and creepy and unnerving, and it's mesmerizing in the way that it's shot, because Danny and Michael Philippou, the same brothers that brought you Talk to Me, this is their follow-up to that. And this is as good, if not better, in my opinion, but it's less fun and much more bleak and dour and bothersome and disturbing. Because don't get me wrong, Talk to Me was a creepy, fucked up movie, but this takes a lot of the fun element out of it, the partying, teens partying kind of element out of it, and turns up the bleakness, turns up that disturbing, the sad and the uncomfortable elements. It turns all that up. But everyone just gives incredible performances here. Sally Hawkins, though, to me is the one that really stood out the most, because it is a difficult thing to get a performance that is both alarming and disturbing, but brought to you with a smile. Like, there's something about that is the most unnerving kind of performance, but it's also very difficult. You don't see a ton of people that are able to pull that off. But from the very beginning, she is the most nicest, sweetest type of person, but yet there is a way about her. There's this underlying feeling It's hard to even put into words, but you just feel it from the very beginning of this movie that you can't trust her and that there's something just so uncomfortable and weird about her. But I've talked about this movie already a few times on the channel, so I'm not going to keep going on and on about it. I just think it's a great movie. It's well directed, well written. Like I said, the way it looks is incredible. I just love the style and the way Danny and Michael Philippou make movies. And so I just can't wait to see what they have in store for us next. But at least so far this year, this is my number 2 pick for my favorites of the year.
One day he's gonna follow you home.
Sinners is a 2025 horror movie, written, directed, and produced by Ryan Coogler. It stars Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, and Jack O'Connell. Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back.
I ain't ever seen no demons. No ghosts.
I mean, what has there not been said about this movie? I think this is going to go down as one of the best of the last 20 years. That's how good I think this movie is. This is one of those very special movies that I talk about. If we're lucky, we get 1 or 2 a year. This, at least at this point, is the one movie that I think is that, almost 10, it's almost perfect. It's like, just an absolutely fantastic movie, because it's been the movie that has just kind of been the most impactful for everyone. I mean, almost everyone I've talked to just glows about this movie, just loved it. It's one of those transcendent horror movies that touches film in general, and people that are not even horror fans are still, blown away by it, excited about it, and talking about it. But Ryan Coogler is just such an amazing filmmaker. The fact that he wrote this, directed it, produced it, really did everything, and for it to all come across on screen, that's just a special thing. And then the performance from Michael B. Jordan. To play these 2 different twins, and somehow each one of them feels like a very unique character. And the way it's directed and written to where that is able to be a thing says a lot for Ryan Coogler's writing as well. But Michael B. Jordan still had to pull that off. He had to make it believable that he's these 2 different people. And for someone to be such a recognizable face like Michael B. Jordan, and yet minutes into this movie, you are 100% bought in that this is 2 brothers. But on top of that, the cinematography is just amazing. It's such a gorgeous movie. And then the sound design, the music, the score, just the music in general in this movie, and the way it's such an integral part of this film. There's one scene in particular that everybody's been raving about, but unless you've seen it and can really understand the level of beauty and interesting uniqueness that scene has, it's hard to really get across to you. But it is a breathtaking moment that touched my soul. As someone who's been involved in music since I was a kid and have always loved it, I don't play it anymore, but I still love music. It just was profound. And what it had to say goes even beyond music. It's just art in general, and how it connects us through time and space. And, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, the religion you are, what country you're from, or whatever. Art connects us all. And the way this movie said that, it's such a profound way, that by itself is a lot of the reason why it's my favorite movie this year. But it's also creepy. It's uncomfortable. It's disturbing, but it's really fun. There's a lot of humor and excitement. It's just a well done, well-rounded movie in every way that I can think of. So without a doubt, to this point this year, Sinners is absolutely my number 1 pick. But I would love to hear down in the comments, what are your favorites this year? You don't have to give me your whole 10, but at least a couple. What are the ones that really have stood out for you this year? It's just been a great year already for horror movies. But that's gonna do it for me today, and like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun, and I'll see you guys next time.